morning and happy Mother's Day. So today our talk is about realizing the absolute. This is a very pet topic, not of us, but of those who have realized it. So we find that the great spiritual teachers everywhere, in all ages, they have not failed to remind us, and not just remind us again and again, repeatedly. I remember when I was growing up as a young man, so I was a kind of confused that there were so many different kinds of religious observances, many different kinds of celebrations are there, many different kinds of worships and different deities and all these things, and people take part in all those celebrations with all sorts of pomp and show and energy and enthusiasm, and they enjoy. They like it, everybody goes. Temples are there, and we recognize that there are churches, mosques, everything, everywhere, and people go there with all interest. But I was not very convinced and very sure of why. Many people would say many different reasons why, that they are enriching our life just by living ordinary social lives. We are not making our life that fulfilled compared to when we add religion to that. This was a very popular explanation that later I found Swami Vivekananda gave here. He says that you need many different things to decorate your house, and you need a flower pot, you need certain kind of painting on a wall, and religion is like that. In your life, that helps you make the life look nice, and it is more pleasant a thing to have in your life. I was not very convinced. I did not hear that Swamiji's voice, his way of pointing it out that in most people's life religion is like this. But more or less that was the reason. Why we celebrate this puja or that puja and this celebration, that was because it is a part of our everyday life. We do many different things, we also do religion. Then it happened that I read for the first time when I was going through the Gospel of Ramakrishna. He had said, the purpose of human life is God realization. God realization is the goal and purpose, and that is why people are born as human beings. And when I first time read it, immediately it almost made everything clear, and I cannot tell you how happy I was because the question was solved. It was a wonderful moment I can still recall from my just growing up time, adolescent period. And later on I found that it is not just he said once, he would be saying it repeatedly. He never tired in telling same thing again and again. God realization is the purpose of human birth. And then I found that it is not just he said it. There have been all other religious great teachers, they also said the same thing. They also said the same thing, that this is the purpose. This is why you have a human birth. Buddha said, though he did not want to do anything, he had solved his problem of the sorrow and pain and suffering in life by realizing the truth of everything, the truth about why, what, and where about life. And then he was inspired by those angels and reminded that no, you have got a mission, sir, in your life. Please help others also to know this truth. And so, untiringly for more than 40 years, he traveled length and breadth of that land by foot in India 2,500 years back, just to tell people this one truth, that do things correctly. I am telling you how, what you need to do, and then achieve your own nirvana and get out of here. Bring an end to your unending life and cycle of sorrows that he taught. Jesus Christ said that give your full mind and heart and strength and soul and everything into just one thing, loving God. Give him everything that you have got. And when you give everything to God, then you don't have anything left for the world. It is a natural corollary. You don't have anything left for the world. Give everything that you have got, all your strength, with all your mind, with all your heart. Love God alone. That is what he taught. Sri Chaitanya, we chanted after him the prayer, that chant the name of the Lord day and night, continuously and unceasingly. Unceasing prayer. How could you do that? You could not do that unless you really, really love God alone. Only you become mad in the love of God. Unless you have become like that, you cannot do that. You cannot chant the name of the Lord unceasingly. You cannot. So everybody said like that. And Shankaracharya said, what Sri Ramakrishna said, that the purpose of this human birth is God realization. Shankaracharya said, do you have a human birth? Yes. Okay, check. Do you have any kind of inclination for spiritual life? Yes. Otherwise, why you have arrived here? So you check. Have you met a holy man who can guide you in your life? If you say yes, then Shankaracharya is very happy. He said that now he have achieved all three most important conditions in your life, and just forget everything and attain this one purpose of your birth here, and that is self-realization. Go do it. Forget everything else. This is what Shankaracharya says. And of course, in the life story of Sri Ramakrishna and his sayings, we see the same thing. It is about God realization, self-realization, or realization of the absolute, and he says that do it. Because your human birth is going to become meaningless and worthless if you have not achieved it. This is not what I am saying, this is the words of an Upanishad. In the Kathopanishad, this in the same language. Achieve it now and here in this life. If you can do it, then you attain immortality. You are successful. And if you cannot do it, then your life is a total failure. Unnecessarily you are wasting your time living your life. Too much effort and too much work and all sorts of things you are putting into your life, it is going waste, according to Kathopanishad. You know about the great disciples of Sri Ramakrishna. Swami Niranjanananda was one of them, a young man, tall and handsome and very strong. built. And he came to Sri Ramakrishna, and immediately Sri Ramakrishna recognized him, that he is my boy. And as usual, this boy, Niranjan, his name was Nitya Niranjan Ghosh, and therefore he was nicknamed Niranjan. Everybody called Niranjan. So this boy, he also felt a strong attraction for this wonderful person. He was a religious-minded, very, very religious-minded person from his birth. But after meeting Sri Ramakrishna, he felt like a strong attraction, cannot live without him. So within couple of days, he again made a return visit to Dakshineshwar. Those were the days they did not have the easy conveyance of anything. Not like you pick up your car and go. They had to do some real effort to actually reach from point A to point B, from where he was living in his rural place, where now the nearby is where the Calcutta International Airport is located, not too far from there. From there, coming to Dakshineshwar Kali temple, it was quite an effort. But he came after a couple of days, and as soon as he arrived there, Sri Ramakrishna jumped up from his seat, and seeing him, she was so happy. And not only happy, what he did next was very strange. Strange to everybody else except him. That was his norm. He rushed towards Niranjan and, "Hey Niranjan, you have come. It is wonderful. But when you are going to attain God realization," holding his hand, he was telling these things. He said, "Niranjan, don't you see that days after days are flitting away so fast, and the time of your life is wasted? When are you going to put your all effort to realize God and achieve God? When are you going to do that, Niranjan? You are wasting your time. I cannot wait anymore. I am so anxious about your realizing God." Like that. Holding his hand, Sri Ramakrishna, with all eagerness, with 100% simplicity and truthfulness, he is saying like this to a young man, Niranjan, with whom he was acquainted only 2-3 days back. So Niranjan was dumbfounded, and he was thinking in his head, what kind of insane person he must have been. Is it an ordinary conversation going on? Yes, he was spiritually motivated. He had a deep religious inclination in him. But to expect this, not even in dream, to happen. So this was what we find the passion of all the great spiritual teachers, that realization of the God or the self or the divine or the absolute truth, that is the real thing, the only thing according to those great teachers and according to these scriptures also. Scripture says that before the dissolution of your body at the death, one must realize the truth of one's own self. When that will happen, then the person will become immortal and his purpose of life is fulfilled. If he doesn't do that, what a big trouble he is bringing to himself. It is all, he has messed up with his life. It is a whole lot of a wastage. Some of you perhaps would be remembering that Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna gives a kind of a glimmer of hope. He says, okay, don't be that upset. When Arjuna tells Krishna that, sir, I have got a question. What happens to those people who had tried very genuinely, put some effort for God realization and still could not finish the entire journey of realizing God? What happens to them? Is it all wasted? He asked this question. Is the entire time is wasted? All over again he has to start in a next birth. Then Sri Krishna says that, no, my friend, don't worry. Everything will be kept in your credit balance, he says. You will get your entire account intact and maintained, so that when you return back in your next birth, you will be handed over all these virtuous deeds so that you can start from there. You don't have to start from square one. You don't have to start from there. You will start from where you left in the previous birth. And we also find that in the life story of great spiritual figures, saintly personalities, when we see that at a very young age how deeply they became totally inclined towards deep spiritual journey or practices, austere life, and getting totally invested in spiritual practice, and had very little interest ever shown in the worldly life, as if nothing in this world attracted them. We find many such saintly lives, and their biographies tell us these kind of stories. That whereas everybody else, as soon as they attain their adolescence, immediately they feel strong attraction toward their sense life. Life in the world is so very attractive and interesting. One or two here and there, they show a very different trend or trait in their mind, and they feel strong attraction towards spiritual practices. And they embark on a very difficult and apparently painful journey of intense spiritual practice. We see many people, and how they then attain lofty heights of spiritual realization. We see such great life stories. So naturally what Sri Krishna says is a correct idea, that where a person had left in the previous birth, even after one has made a lot of progress but could not finish it, they start from there. Sure it is. Otherwise we cannot explain how these handful number of great spiritual figures, they started their life at a young age. But, there is a but. How do you know that you will be very fortunate that next birth you will have a human birth, and then in that human birth you will have a very perfect condition provided simultaneously? Your family, your parents, your neighbors, your society, your education, schooling, growing up, everything will be perfect. Perfect in the sense that it will remind you that God realization is the purpose of human birth at a very early age, and the whole surrounding, they will support you in this journey. Immediately you will start quickly. It might happen, it might not happen, who knows. According to the Hindu tradition, after this human birth, there are many other higher births are available according to your good karmas. So if your spiritual practices were done, good amount of spiritual effort and endeavor put, but also you had some amount of worldly hankering lurking in your heart, then perhaps you will be provided with a life suited to that, to satisfy all your those desires as a reward for your good karma. You can get them. You can get them on this earth itself, have a better birth in a very nice and noble and wealthy family, and you already inherit multi-million-dollar business. And you start from highly educated young man or woman, and you have got very successful life and very happy and everything fine. And you may not need to think about God or intense spiritual practice immediately. You might like to live that life and keep going their way. And maybe at 50 years of age, all of a sudden you might feel a spiritual hankering, who knows. By that time, it is too late for doing a genuine effort, because your body and mind and many different things becoming not that efficient and strong and capable and clean anymore. Perhaps. Who knows? We hear about stories of great spiritual personalities who had a kind of awakening very late in their life. Some incident happened in their life, and that reminded them of spiritual life. And immediately they entered into a spiritual life. But until then, they were living a very fine, happy, pleasant, successful life in the world, never thinking about God realization. And if it is not a human birth, if it is not on the earth, it may be in a different plane according to the tradition in Vedanta. They say there are many different planes of life or existences are available. Bhu, Bhuva, Swa, Maha, Jana, Tapa and Satya. These are the 7 different lokas or planes of existences are narrated according to this Vedic tradition. They are superior. Bhuloka is this earthly level of existence, and there are many different kind of life possible as we understand. And even within human birth there are so many different conditions possible at the time of birth. And then there are upper and superior and finer and happier lokas, they say, are existing. And when people go there and have a birth there, then they live there happily, superior to human birth, for a longer period of time and enjoy that particular existence. How should we know whether that is true or false? Because we have got no instrument to check it. This is what the rishis say. You have done very good karma, so you are rewarded, or your karma will provide you with higher, superior kind of fine enjoyment at a different kind of a life. And you stay there for thousands of years, maybe. So those states of existences, they are not suitable for God realization. God realization, the desire for God realization, or the longing for spiritual liberation, or the hankering for the knowledge of the Absolute, this only happens in the human birth, and that's why the human birth is most precious and valuable. Though it has got many imperfections, physical, mental, senses, many imperfections and limitations. But the human birth is still the best and the most superior and the grandest one, because Here on human birth alone, it is possible to think about God realization and work on it and actually realize it. That is why Shankaracharya mentioned that if you are born as a human being, if you have got a hankering for spiritual realization or illumination, and you have got a guidance or teacher is available, then that is you have hit the jackpot. You have hit the jackpot, 777, all three, everything, all three have just come in line and you have hit the jackpot, and just now take it, don't toss it away. It has come to you. We don't take it in that sense. We say, well, can it wait for me for a while? Let me enjoy the world first. Yeah, I have got, as you mentioned, yeah, I understand. I have a human birth. I think of God also. I have got a religious desire. I really enjoy reading those life stories of great spiritual figures who had the illumination. When I read, I get inspiration, but can it wait for a while? I'll come back and later I will try it. Because later, you never know. The greatest of the physicists of our time, Hawkins, he is saying that maybe another 100 years, and then after that, this earth will be uninhabitable, he says. He may be understanding better than us, who knows. So, if we think that not in this life, maybe in next life, whether that next life will be quickly coming, or it will come after 200 years, or the earth is uninhabitable and there is no other earth, or some place where intelligent human-like creatures are available who can think of God realization and all these things, and everything is exactly possible just as it is here and today available to our lives, exactly available. Everything will be happening, we don't know. And even if the birth is there, human birth, earth is perfectly existing, whether the genuine interest in God realization immediately will be kindled, we don't know. And that is why we find that Sri Ramakrishna, holding the hands of Niranjan, says that, oh Niranjan, don't you see that every day is flitting away? And it is the wastage of time. I cannot wait anymore. I am so anxious about you when you are going to try harder and realize God. I cannot wait anymore. Now we understand why he was so eager. So this concept of God realization, that this God realization has to be achieved now and here, this is a very important point. It is said that this God realization is achieved in samadhi only. Some kind of samadhi. In the path of jnanas, they say that the samadhi has to be for the nirvikalpa samadhi, for attaining that which is the supreme concept of absolute, without any form, without any attributes, we call it Brahman. Or within oneself also it is the same truth existing, and it is called Atman. That samadhi is the way to attain that highest truth. Those who are in the path of dualism or qualified monism, they would say same thing, that is also samadhi, but it may not be the nirvikalpa samadhi they are meaning. They are meaning of a different kind of a samadhi where this Supreme Truth appears in the form of their own chosen deity or God. And he feels that that is the only reality or truth that he needs to know, and accepts it as one with him. That is a different kind of samadhi, but it is still samadhi. The samadhi that is about getting rid of one's own body consciousness, mind consciousness, consciousness of the senses, and everything else. When everything else is given up, then people might think that, oh, this is like death. When there is no consciousness of the body or the senses or the mind or the intellect or the I consciousness, ego, then it is perhaps death. No, it is not. Because in the death, there is no consciousness. But in samadhi, there is pure consciousness exists, but not the I consciousness with all of them, that this is me. The dropping of the awareness of the body and the senses and the mind and the intellect and the subtle ego, dropping of them is about giving up the identification with them, one after another. But the pure consciousness remains. And reaching there is not that simple and easy, of course. It is like trying and trying and trying very hard. The spiritual struggle is a kind of very treacherous and hard to achieve journey. That's why it has been described in many different ways, like walking on the razor's edge, and many different ways it has been described that it is not so simple and easy to achieve. And when more and more the effort is put, then according to Christianity, the Satan will appear and try to lure you, tempt you. According to Buddhism, the Mara will appear and try to tempt you. In the life of Nachiketa, it was not the Satan or Mara or any other negative personality. It was the teacher himself. He tried to attempted to tempt him and told Nachiketa, why not you ask for a big kingdom? I'll make you live for hundreds and hundreds of years, or you decide how many years you want to live. And what kind of enjoyment you want, you figure out and give me your list of desires, and in one stroke of my pen I will make it all granted. So, when a person is on the path of spiritual struggle, he is asking for illumination or self-realization or God-realization, then all sorts of temptations will come. Temptations that might not come from outside in this form that we find in these kind of stories that happen in the life of Jesus Christ or Buddha or others. Sri Ramakrishna's life also, he had many different kinds of visions, many different things appeared before him, and Divine Mother says, why not take them? And Sri Ramakrishna asked his own mind, do you want them? And said, no, I don't want. And then his mind said, Mother, kill them, cut them into pieces. So with the knowledge as the sword, all the ignorance have to be cut. That is the language that the books of Upanishad and others, they say. With the knowledge as the fire created, all those ignorance which is a heap of block in front of your path, they have to be all burned to ashes. It is like a huge stormy night that you have to pass through, you have to live through, you have to encounter. Like a hurricane is blowing through, and you are trying very hard to survive in the middle of it. Any moment the house could be blown away, or the big branch of a very old oak tree can fall on your head, or anything might happen. And it is a stormy, rainy night. And this happens, people who enter into this venture of spiritual realization or illumination, many of them don't survive the entire journey successfully. And then they fail. They might get tempted, or they might get disheartened, or tired, or frightened, and then they flee from the battle. Everything happens. But those who can survive, courageous enough, strong enough, and pass through the entire time, then they enjoy the fruit of it, which is like after the storm and cyclone, everything has gone and everything again, the nature calmed down. Then the next morning, if you go to see the sunrise there at our Tampa Bay area, you see in a peaceful and clean, everything looking bright, and there is a dazzling bright sun is rising in a perfectly peaceful, calm climate. And you enjoy the beauty and the glory of that sunrise then, when everything has calmed down, all the storms and all the rainfall and everything is over, when you have passed through that. But you have to pass through that stormy night, to enjoy and achieve this glorious sunrise, which is like the rise of the knowledge of Atman on the horizon of your own consciousness. So it is not for the weakling, it is not for the fearful, it is for the brave and it is for the strong. That is why in the Upanishad it has been mentioned, Nayam Atma Balahinena Labhya. This Atman, or the self, is not attainable by a weak person. Bala means the strength. Balahina means lacking strength. This is not achievable, attainable for one who is weak. It is only achievable by the strong. In spiritual life, yes, physical strength is important, but more than that is the mental strength and the strength of inner many different aspects or parts of the personality. That is much more important. And the strength is a very important factor in the spiritual life. So this supreme truth of knowledge of the Absolute, that all the scriptures and all the teachers, they have been emphasizing and insisting upon repeatedly, that can be achieved at the height of the samadhi, whether it is a bhava samadhi for the dualist or it is a nirvikalpa samadhi for the non-dualist, but only with that supreme level of deep samadhi it can be achievable, and that is achieved only by bringing all your different parts or the aspects of your personality, the body, the mind, the senses, the intellect, everything together, making it concentrated and make it one-pointed, and with that very powerful force of your mind and senses and body, you try to achieve that goal. They say that this is the way to go. This concentration of all your senses, concentration of your entire power of your mind, not allowing a little bit, a fraction of it to be scattered into any other objects. Oh, one portion of my mind is running towards this attraction, another portion of mind is engaged with that desire, nothing doing. Everything brought back to yourself, made it fully concentrated, and with that one-pointed concentration, the full force of all the resources that is available to you, when it is put on this goal, the goal of truth of God or the self or the Brahman, then only it is achievable, they say. This is called yoga. When people say yoga, it is not about some kind of exercises. Those exercises are just the preliminary part of making the body a little more stronger, a little more better, efficient, so that you can start working on the whole idea of why you are born as a human being. The God realization, to achieve that purpose of God realization, you need many different things. Yes, your body also is one of those things, and you need a healthy, suitable body. That body is not is that imperfect that you cannot do anything. You cannot start your journey at all. You want some successful effort. And body is the first level or first instrument. Body has to be always maintained, well oiled and well fed and well maintained, so that it is strong and efficient and capable. With that body, then you pay attention to rest of the things, but body is not everything. Body is just the first level. And the whole thing together, to make the whole soul effort, concentrated form, is called yoga. With the help of this yoga, a person can realize the Supreme Self. Realization of Supreme Self and dropping the worldliness, they go hand in hand. So it is like one side improving, another side accordingly keeps tanking. Like a like tube, and like a liquid, one side is red, another side is green. If pressures are created in one way or another, then you'll see one side is going down equally with another side going up, and similarly the other way case. So the spiritual achievements or self-realization or God realization, it has got directly something to do with the worldliness that is in our heart and mind. More the world becomes attractive, interesting, and we get a lot of desires in our heart because of those interests that has been generated here. Those desires and the entanglement with the worldly things of the world, that more it grows, lower is your inclination for God realization, and lower is your achievement. Lower is your achievement. Some of our monks very funnily way used to say that, well, the old monks, many of them, they were very simple and childlike simplicity. They will talk many different things. So when we would say, Swami, when we were very young, have you realized God? They say, well, this life perhaps it is only an acquaintance with the Ramakrishna Mission. Next life I'll come back. It was a familiarity. I had a good idea about what it is. I had a good acquaintance and familiarity. Next birth I'll come back and then start. So the the achievement, in spiritual achievement in your life, if you think that, well, this is enough for me, or sorry, I cannot do anything more here, I've got too many other things to take care of. There are a whole lot of things there in the world. Your life, your family member, your business or other occupation, and your many different areas of your interest that you really, really want to pay attention to, and you have got a couple of dogs and cats and all those things. Then perhaps you will say, well, this life I have got some acquaintance with this. What is this religion and spirituality? I had very good friends there in the center. I understand what it is. Let me come back next life, I'll start from there. So it is possible. And they say that this realization of the self, which is, as I mentioned, is possible only through yoga, only by concentration of all your mind and senses and body. Everything, all the power taken together, concentrated way, and put into this path in the form of spiritual effort, the spiritual discipline, intense spiritual practice, then only samadhi can be achieved, and samadhi is the way for God realization. People say, well, if it is so, I have heard that God is everywhere. I read in the books, and many great spiritual teachers, they also have told us that God is everywhere. You cannot see anything or name or point out to anything which there God is not there. So why not we can see God with our eyes? Can we see God with our eyes? Because in the idea of this yoga, the supreme union of the individual soul with the supreme soul, Jivatman and Paramatman, they say that this is the way to realize God. Why not with how we are living now? Is it not possible? They say no, it is not possible. Why? Because all these senses, not only that God is not possible physically, that He will appear in front of you, as we see the images of God in many different forms. In Hindu temple they have got many different human forms. In Christian temples either Jesus Christ form or a cross form, or many other religions they have God in a particular form. God is not something that you can touch and feel and experience it. Because God is something which is considered as abstract, that which is absolute, that is also fine and abstract. Abstract in the sense, in the terminologies of the Upanishad or the Vedanta language, that it cannot be in the way that anything that has got a name and form has appeared. Name and form makes the abstract gross. Something which is gross, that is only perceivable through the five senses. Unless it is gross, it cannot be perceived by five senses. You want to see something, then it must have a form and a name. You want to smell something, touch something, taste, hear, it must have a name and a form. And when it has become a name and a form, then it has become gross. And it is appearance. If you argue, then is not then God everywhere that I read in the books, in the scriptures, and the great teachers have said that God is everywhere. Is it not that God everywhere true then? No, it is true. It is true. God is everywhere. But you cannot see God in its absolute existence, in its absolute form, in its real, true form, because your senses are so crude and coarse that it cannot trace him there. When that absolute has appeared in a coarser form, in the form of this wood and metal and light and water and the cloud and the planet and stars, when that absolute has appeared in a much coarser form, then your coarse senses can touch it, smell it, see it. That's it. Until it has become coarse, it cannot be seen. Like you want to catch very small tiny fish with some kind of a net which has got big, big holes. No? Big, big holes. Very big net with and you are throwing that net, but you cannot catch those tiny fish. You go more and more finer and subtler and absolute and abstract, then the coarser things cannot hold that or catch that or comprehend that. This is the only problem. So our words even cannot describe that God. Because words is much coarser and inferior an instrument compared to that which we are trying to describe. Words cannot describe even the fine things like mental ideas and thoughts. Many different things that appear in our mind in the form of love, hate, affection, kindness, anger, sadness, many different things that appear in the mind. Word cannot correctly and completely describe even them. To describe something, we have to put it in a particular classification. To describe something, to talk about something, we have to bring back from our own memory. They say it is like pigeonholes. In the post office, they have got pigeonhole boxes where the letters are pin code wise, zip code wise, they are sorted. So in our memory, there are many different, all those areas classified. This is this is called animal, this is called bird, this is called food, this is called water. This is we call liquid, this is we call solid. We have got ideas classified. And to understand anything, to describe that through our mind and through our description, we have to figure out where do I put it. God is not in any particular classification you can put it. Oh, God is like an animal, you cannot say so. God is like a flowing river, you cannot say so. So it cannot be classified and it cannot be therefore made an object of mental observation or perception. So it cannot be touched by our senses, it cannot be described by our speech, which is so inferior that it cannot describe even our mental waves, and it cannot be thought of by our mind because mind requires a classified information only. So it lies always beyond all of them. To achieve that truth of the absolute or realize that supreme reality in the form of a benign God, if you like that form, or in the form of abstract absolute reality. Therefore, we have to drop one by one all these areas of our own self that we consider it is me, our body, the senses, the mind, the intellect, and the I consciousness, one by one dropping. Because these instruments are incapable, imperfect, insufficient. They cannot comprehend that truth. After removing all of them, what remains is the truth. Because the reality, in the Upanishad it has been explained, that if it cannot be described by words, if it cannot be comprehended by mind, then what is this reality? How do we start from where? How to start to think about it? Where do we start? And in the Upanishad, the answer was, start by thinking it that this is pure existence on which everything else can depend or exist, without which nothing can exist. So it is the basis, or it is the beginning, or it is the source on which the structure of the phenomenal world or the creation of the appearance is possible. So we have to start from there. Because we know that we exist, we cannot say we don't, we cannot deny our own existence, so we can accept that there is something known as existence, pure existence. If we start from there, de-identify ourselves with these kind of feeling that I am this body, I am this mind, I am this senses, go into deeper and deeper areas of meditation, then in the highest level of that supreme meditation successfully done with the concentrated form of all your strength of mind and senses, everything, that is called the path of yoga. Then the ultimate realization comes, which is also known as samadhi. That means everything has been now dropped successfully. Then what remains is the pure existence, and that is the realization of the Absolute. Thank you.
Your